guys, welcome to Mom Jeans and Crime Scenes. I'm Trish and I'm excited you're here with me tonight. So I am so excited about this story. Before we get into it, let's just take care of a little bit of business. If you have not already subscribed, please consider doing so. It helps me out a lot. Like this video if you're feeling it. Leave some comments about your thoughts on the case. I love the feedback I get on these cases, and a lot of times you guys have additional information, or the story is close to you, or you have something to do with the story. Like, I just love hearing what you guys have to say. It's way fun for me. And this story, I just discovered it a week ago, and I'm going against like everything in me. I wasn't going to ever do like kid stories. I thought that there's just no way I can do them. So this is going against everything that I promised myself I would do, but these children need a voice. It is a cold case, and it is so sad. And so, yeah, I want to hear your thoughts on it. You guys are my little detectives, so I want to know what you think about it. Do some research. The whole story, it's so old that it's like just kind of, the facts kind of get jumbled up with the truth and the legend and all of it. So I want to know what you guys think about it because it's interesting to me. Remember to be respectful to me, to each other, be kind in the comments. You guys usually are pretty freaking awesome, so I'm not really worried about that at all. But yeah, I'm excited to jump into this story, so let's get into it. The Oklahoma Camp Murders is a story that we're going to talk about tonight. It's very interesting to me. It's very sad, but I think that you guys will definitely be into it. I think that you guys are going to want to do your own research on it and read more about it because it is so crazy. In Mayes County, Oklahoma, in a thick forest lays Camp Scott. It is now abandoned and overgrown. The history haunts the residents and just about anyone who has heard the story of a single murderous night. Does this campground still echo the cries from that time? This story is not for the faint of heart. It is tragic, it is painful, and after researching it, I was not sure I was going to be able to do the full story. I actually started it as a TikTok story, and I was so intrigued by it that I just continued to do research. And yeah, I thought I just have to share the full story with you guys. And I'm going into more cold cases, so I felt like this is just the perfect segue for that. But as I said, it is one that's mixed with facts, with rumors, and a little urban legend. So I did my best to distinguish truth from facts. But if this is a story you're familiar with, I'd love to hear what you have to say on what you know about it. Fort Scott opened in 1928 and had been a tradition to camp at and hold festivals for decades. It was rich with fun, leadership building, swimming, hiking, and everything you would dream of to create the perfect scout trip all year around. But it would close, never to open again. Let's enter the crime scene. Cars and buses of excited young Girl Scouts arrived on a warm June day. Camp was something that was much anticipated and a long-standing tradition for many of the families who dropped their daughters off. This was the 49th year that Camp Scott would be hosting Girl Scouts, and the magic of the thick forest around it was swirling about. This would be the first time that Lori Farmer, who was just 8 years old, had been to camp. She was nervous, but also excited to make new friends and enjoy the adventures Girls Camp had to offer. She had not been sure if she wanted to come to Fort Scott or camp at the YMCA. Her mom made the decision for her to go to Camp Scott, something that would haunt her forever. The camp was vast and thick, hosting several campgrounds, each with a unique Native American name. The campgrounds had platform tents that had a number assigned and would be home to 3 or 4 campers in each. Lori was assigned to the Kiowa campground. She would be teamed up with 2 other girls, whom she hoped would be her new best friends at camp. Denise Milner was a beautiful 10-year-old girl. She was new to Camp Scott and felt extra anxious over staying at camp. She wanted to stay home, but with a nudge from her family, she decided to come and try to meet new friends. And a few of the girls from camp did take her under their wing to help ease her into it. But Denise was homesick, and she really was having a hard time staying for the next 2 weeks. Michelle Goose was 9. She was extra excited about camp this year. She had come the year before and loved it. She could not wait for whatever adventures were in store for her during this trip. She was excited about being assigned in a tent with 2 new campers. She would get a chance to show them the ropes, and they were 2 new faces for her to become familiar with. Camp this year was going to be amazing. The 3 girls were bunked together in tent number 8, which was located, of course, in the Kiowa camp, deep inside Camp Scott. It was the furthest tent away from the camp counselor assigned to that area. The trees were thick around the campground, which made it extra dark and a little bit more soundproof. Its visibility was very limited from the counselor's view because there was a shower block making it hard to see that particular tent. This was the tent the young 3 girls would spend all their nights in. On June 13, 1977, as the campers were enjoying their time in the wilderness, it began to storm really hard. All the campers retreated to their tents to spend their evenings out of the angry storm around them. Lori, Michelle, and Denise were excited about the storm and excited to use this time to write letters home to their families. They had been waiting for a chance to write home. This was the perfect time for it. Dear Mom and Dad, and Misty, and Joe, and Chad, and Kathy, we're just getting ready to go to bed. It's 7:45. We're at the beginning of a storm and having a lot of fun. I've met 2 friends, Michelle Goose and Denise Milner. I'm sharing a tent with them. It started raining on the way back from dinner. We're sleeping on cots. I couldn't wait to write. We're all writing letters now, because there's hardly anything else to do. With love, Lori. As the sun went down and the rain pounded the top of the tents and the intense darkness would close in around the camp, the laughter and excitement would quiet down, and the girls in each campground laid down to sleep. Lulled by the storm, most of them would sleep through the night. Most of them. However, at some point during the night, some campers in Tent 7 saw a flashlight shine through their tent window. The light shined in for only a moment, and they didn't think much of it at this time. Maybe it was a counselor checking in on them. Maybe it was another camper trying to be funny. The campers fell back to sleep without a second thought. Later, another camper thought that she may have heard crying and someone yelling for their mom. The cries came from the same direction as Tent 8. Maybe one of the new campers was homesick. The camper was unsure of what she was hearing and unsure of what she should do, so she closed her eyes and went back to sleep. A counselor thought she'd heard a weird growling, coming from the same direction as Tent 8. She walked around a little, but was not able to figure out what she was hearing. When she shined the light on the tents, the growling stopped. She would hear the growling intermittently a few more times through the night, but could not figure out where it came from, what it was, and so she ultimately went back to bed for the night. There are also rumors of other campers possibly seeing a man at the campground, but upon investigation, nothing was found, no one was seen. Early the next morning, around 6 a.m., a camp counselor named Laura Wilhite stumbled upon what she thought was a garbage sack or a blanket that maybe someone had left out on the trail. She walked over to investigate what she was seeing, but what she found would shake her to her core. It was the body of a child. She ran to get help from their supervisor. Soon the bodies of 2 other campers were found in sleeping bags about 150 yards from their camp area. The bodies were badly beaten and bound with duct tape and rope, and it was not possible to identify who they were for sure. They ran back to the Kiowa camp, checking the tents, hoping and praying the campers inside were okay. The closest tent was Tent 8. The girls who should have been sleeping soundly were missing. The tent showed a terrifying story. It was covered in blood, and while there had been some attempt to clean the crime scene, the cleanup had fallen short. It was overwhelmingly obvious. The 3 girls that were found were Denise, Lori, and Michelle. Police went to work to try to figure out who was responsible for the gruesome murders and when exactly they had taken place overnight. After conducting interviews and hearing the recount of some of the things that other campers thought they saw or heard, like the flashlight in the window, the cries during the night, the strange growling, possibly a man walking around, they were able to determine the murders likely took place after 2 o'clock that night. They found a flashlight on one of the girls and what had appeared to be a bloody fingerprint on the flashlight lens. They also found a homemade gag, and there was rope and tape found near the bodies. All of this suggested this was probably premeditated. There was hair in the duct tape that bound the girls that did not belong to any of them. There were 2 different bloody footprints found, one inside the tent and one just outside it. They also found evidence that the girls had been sexually assaulted, and male DNA was also found in the crime scene. They were able to determine that 2 of the girls were murdered in the tent, which had been attempted to be cleaned with the mattress inside of the tent. The other girl was determined to have been strangled outside the tent. With all the evidence left behind, it seemed as though it would be very easy for police to make an arrest. However, that would be far, far from the truth. Police also learned that just a couple months prior, during a training for the camp counselors, one counselor had found that her tent was ransacked. Food, including a box of donuts, was eaten, and a note was left inside the box. What was in the note was haunting and manifested exactly what was to come. It read along the lines, "We are on the hunt to kill 3 girls in one tent." After further investigating this, I also heard that it is possible that someone also discovered an effigy hanging from a tree with a rope around its neck. This was dismissed, all of it, as a really gross joke, and no one really thought much about it. I can't imagine how awful of a feeling that must have been for the counselors as the horrors that happened that night unfolded before them, and they were told that this was going to happen. All of the campers were rounded up about 4 hours later and taken from Camp Scott to another location for parents to pick up. They were all sheltered from hearing what had happened while they slept in the night. But the sight of police and news was overwhelmingly obvious to the now very scared and very confused campers that something terrible had happened. It wasn't until they were home with their families that they would learn of the horror that they had all narrowly escaped that night. Rumors began flooding the news about what may have happened at Camp Scott, but there was not a whole lot of information available. A lot of the parents found out about the murders from the news, you guys, while they were out and about doing their daily activities. How terrible to not know if your child was safe or what was happening. It had just been 24 hours since they'd just left their children in the care of Camp Scott, and now they're facing the most horrible truth. 3 little girls had been murdered overnight. Also, the word was that the camp had called the insurance agent and an attorney before they would tell the families of the 3 girls that were murdered. They didn't tell those families anything first. They contacted an attorney, you guys, first. Like, that's just insane to me. In fact, it's rumored that Michelle's parents found out their daughter was murdered from the news. They had been told there was an accident at the camp, and that was how Michelle died, but they didn't know the full truth of it until they heard it on the news. Oh, that's just horrible. But that's one of the rumors. I'm not sure, not 100% sure that that's the truth, but sounds like that may have been what happened. Camp Scott would face a huge amount of backlash for all of this, and the camp would close, never to open again, except of course to curious people who dared explore later on. Let's get into the investigation a little bit, because the investigation on this was really bizarre, and I really want to hear your opinions on this, because like I said, it's really weird. After their search of the camp, police immediately began to suspect a man named Gene Hart. He had escaped prison a few years before, and he had been convicted of kidnapping and raping 2 pregnant women. He had put duct tape over their mouths in an attempt to smother them to death. Both women lived through the horror, and he was familiar with the camp and the area. They also found a cave not far from the camp where a number of items that were connected to both the murders and also to Hart were at. Some of the things they recovered from the cave were a roll of tape, some vinyl glasses that had been taken from the camp Scott, newspaper that was also found at the crime scene, and photographs of 3 women who were connected to Gene Hart. There was also something written on the walls of the cave that were exceptionally disturbing. It said, "The killer was here. Bye bye, fools," with the date 6/17/1977. Police were sure they had their guy. Now, whether he acted alone was a different story. There was also evidence that a woman was also involved. Strange female DNA was found, and it was ruled out as 2 of the girls, but came back inconclusive for the other girl. So, some people really do honestly believe that there was another woman involved, but all the testing has come back inconclusive on that. The male DNA that was found also came back inconclusive, including the fingerprint that they thought that they had. They would never be able to successfully identify who the DNA belonged to. Another interesting and quite honestly disturbing piece of evidence that pointed to Hart was that when he attacked the 2 pregnant women, he was making a weird growling sound. He also took their glasses, which leads me to the glasses in the purse that were stolen from one of the counselors' tents that night. You guys, the same glasses that were recovered from the cave, which I think is a little eerie, because that meant that the murderer went to her tent undetected, stole her glasses, stole all of her things, and then he walked through the camp, or they walked through the camp without being detected, all the way to tent number 8. Like, does that not creep anyone out to think that this person was just walking around and nobody really knew for sure that was happening? Like, that was, it's eerie. The hair that was found in the tape that bound the girls also closely matched Hart's hair. But there was also evidence that suggested that more than one person was involved. So, for example, the note found a couple months before said "we." Also, the girls were bound by rope, but the rope was not tied the same on all of the girls. They had different knots. Another difference was that the girls did not all die in the same manner. One of the girls was strangled, and the other 2 were bludgeoned to death. And it appeared that some of the girls were hit by someone right-handed, while the others were hit by someone left-handed. Again, that's just kind of a rumor that I read, but it sounds like that is a strong possibility that they believe that maybe 2 people did commit this murder. After an intense and expensive manhunt for Gene Hart, he was located in a home. Somebody was harboring him, kind of trying to keep him away from police. He was soon put on trial, and all the evidence really seemed to point to him, but it was too slippery of a slope with doubt, and guess what, you guys? The man was exonerated. For example, some of the things that they found that were inconsistent was it said that the footprints were too small to be Gene Hart's, but then maybe those footprints could have belonged to a woman. I'm not really sure, and if they did, what woman would be helping him? I don't know. Kind of interesting to think about. Another thing that they could not link what they believed was the fingerprint to him. They could not make any kind of a proper link on that. Also, the semen. They found semen. And his family, they were saying there's no way because he had a vasectomy. Obviously, there can't be his semen on the scene. But it is said that later on that actually during the autopsy after he dies, that he actually, the vasectomy didn't take, and so that semen could have been his, but because it was so badly deteriorated, yeah, they weren't able to link that to him either. With his innocent verdict, it was devastating for the families, prosecution, and the police. They truly believed they had their guy, and even though he was not put away for their murders, he was still locked up again to finish serving out the sentence that he'd escaped. However, 2 months later, Gene Hart died of a heart attack, and he took with him the secrets of what may have happened that night. There are some rumors, though, you guys, that maybe Gene Hart did not murder these girls. There are so many other connections that are really weird. I implore you guys to research it more because it is so strange and so interesting. Holy cow. So one of the rumors or thoughts is maybe, and a lot of people have this opinion, it sounds like, that maybe the police just really wanted it to be him so bad that they kind of set him up. A lot of the coincidences are just too unreal. Yeah, so I'm just curious what you think. I want you to do some deep diving on this story. Like I said, it's nuts, so do it. And tell me what you think, because it's, yeah, I don't know. I want to know what your thoughts are. The story is crazy. There's so many twists and turns. And it was so long ago. Like I said, that truth and that legend, they just flirt dangerously close to each other. So I did try my best to separate the truth from the rumor and to really look at everything and make those decisions of what was true and what was not true. And I've heard different versions from different people of it, but I am sure that there are some experts out there who know this case inside out. I'm sure you're out there, and if you're listening to this, I'm really curious on your opinions. Like I said, always be nice and kind about it. I did my best with the research, and this story is so intriguing to me. So if you have more that you want to add, please feel free. If you want to email me about it, I will have my email address in the comments or in the description. I seriously love those kind of conversations. So let's talk about it because this case was crazy. It's a cold case. It does not sound like they plan on revisiting it again. I think that they believe that Hart was their man, but who knows? Who knows? Maybe somebody will want to take it on one day and see if they can solve it. These poor little girls deserve answers and they deserve justice, and their families did a lot of victim advocating after this, trying to help other families in similar situations, which, you have to look at the positives and what good can come out of these tragedies, and those parents really did what they could to try to do that. So, like I said, I just encourage you to look into it more. Tell me your thoughts. It's really crazy, and I'm so glad that you guys are here with me. I'm going to probably start to steer more into cold cases. I've got some fun collaborations coming up I'm way excited about. And yeah, so stick with me. I am on TikTok, you guys. Like I said, this was a TikTok story. Some of these stories I do on TikTok, I might just get the bug to do the full story on it. So definitely keep up with me on TikTok because it's fun. It's another way to support me and another way to just kind of get different sides of mom jeans and crime scenes. So anyways, I am thankful you're here. And I've got some more research to do on some more stories. So I'm going to go, and I'll see you soon.